Welcome, everyone. My name is Sarah Van Landite. I'm the Executive Director for the Arts Council of Johnson County, and I am setting in for Allison Bowman, who typically hosts our creative conversations. She's on vacation this week, which is why all the technical difficulties, but we're going to power through. With me this afternoon is Peter Jasso, who's the Director for the Kansas Creative Arts Industries Commission. So welcome, Peter.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yay. So Peter, why don't you, let's start off easy, and do you want to talk a little bit about yourself and how you ended up at the Kcaic?
Well, it's a long, strange trip, but I started as in state government anyways, as the director of the Kansas Film Commission, and ran that for several years. And then in 2013, they merged the Arts Commission and the Film Commission and housed it within the Kansas Department of Commerce. And then I became director of that new entity, which also kind of serves all the same functions as both of those old entities. So that's kind of how I came about it.
So for those in the audience who aren't familiar with the Kcaic, or Kansas Creative Arts Industries Commission, if you want to say it the long way, what does that organization do?
So it basically supports the role that arts and culture plays in all aspects of community and economic development. And we do that through a number of different ways. Our largest, the main way we do that is through our grant programs, which provides direct funding to arts organizations and communities across the state for arts-related projects, but also some professional development and organizational development activities. And then we also have a number of convenings throughout the year for different topics or different disciplines. And we have a number of direct programs that we run that are usually in sort of the arts incubator category. They're labs of different kinds, concentrated on different types of arts disciplines. So that's largely what we do. On the Film Commission side, we also assist any productions that come into the state, largely providing them with information or helping them to secure locations, equipment, that kind of thing, and then connecting them with communities where they may want to film. Those are largely documentary or commercial projects by and large, but we do that as well.
Cool. So it sounds like you do a lot to support, arts organizations, right? And kind of their professional development, and then film productions. So how does the Kcaic support artists?
Yeah, so I mean, a number of the grant programs, while they're not open directly to artists, obviously artists can partner with arts organizations, but there's a couple of other things that we do that are directly for individual artists. So those would be things like Artist Inc., which provides professional development to individual artists, or our touring roster, which includes artists both performing and visual. And allows organizations to secure funding to bring those artists to communities. Over time, we're looking at, diversifying the roster a bit in terms of maybe having different types of rosters. Right now, we kind of have one touring roster, but kind of in the immediate future, looking at maybe having a mural roster, having a more education-focused teaching artist roster, things like that. But those are some resources that we provide directly to individual artists. Nice.
And it seems like this week alone, I've gotten a lot of e-blasts from you guys announcing some upcoming programs and deadlines. So what's on the immediate horizon? I know there was something about the Tallgrass Artist Symposium, and I think you guys are doing something with MT Leggett and a bunch of other stuff. So what's going on?
Yeah, so Saturday's a big day. The MT Leggett site in Mullinville, which is just west of Greensburg, will be opening, having their grand opening. That'll be sort of a major cultural and tourist attraction in that part of the state. MT Leggett was a kind of outsider artist, if you will, who passed away fairly recently, and so the estate, along with the Kohler Foundation out of Minnesota, have been preparing the grounds there for a visitor center and hopefully at some point an artist in residency program. But the visitor center will be open on Saturday, October 2nd. And then at the same time, we will be having the culmination of our Tallgrass Artist Residency. And kind of going back to your last question, those labs that we talk about, those incubators, those are all aimed at individual artists who participate. So our Tallgrass Artist Residency is a program where 8 artists from across the country can apply to spend some time in the Tallgrass Prairie, and primarily in Matfield Green. And they spend kind of 2-week stints working on their art, and then it all culminates in a group show and symposium in Matfield Green in October. And so that date is October 2nd, again on Saturday. It's kind of an all-day event. In terms of deadlines that are coming up, we have our Indigenous Arts Initiative, which is a program that we do with the University of Kansas. Sort of master artists are brought to the university in the fall, and they provide workshops for emerging Indigenous artists. And then they pair off with 1 or 2 of those artists and work on a project over the course of about 6 months, and then premiere that work in the spring. So that deadline is, I think, Friday, just to be in the workshop part of it. So folks can check that out. We have our Arts and Medicine program, where in this case, the applicants are medical institutions or organizations that provide services to any kind of population. So it could be cancer centers, could be senior centers, could be, groups that look at, autism or whatever. They let us know through the application process sort of what population they're serving, what kind of outcomes they might like. And then we pair them with the art therapy department at Emporia State University, and the faculty and graduate students there sort of prepare a art therapy program and then go out to those communities and perform that art therapy program. And that can be for clients, but it could also be for caregivers. It could be for staff, let's say at a hospital. So that deadline is October 20th, I believe. So if you know of an organization or a hospital or someone that provides services in your community, that would be a good program to apply to. And then we have our regular grant round that's coming up. I believe the deadline for all of those is November 5th. But for our 2 sort of larger programs, which is our Innovative Partnership program, which looks to pair arts organizations with non-arts organizations for an innovative project, as well as our Reimagine Spaces program, which looks to sort of temporarily activate underused or vacant spaces in a community, as well as public art and murals. We have a letter of intent step, just to kind of, so we can kind of review and make sure that is indeed the track that project should be on. That letter of intent application is, that one I'm going to have to look up. I think it's October 5th. Yes, October 15th is the deadline for that. And I think those are our main program deadlines that are coming up. We just had our new dance lab, which pairs emerging choreographers with national choreographers that come to Johnson County Community College. Mm-hmm. And they also are paired with regional dance companies that premiere new work. That just happened in September. And then our new play lab, which happens in the spring with Independence Community College at the William Inge Play Festival. That brings 25 emerging playwrights from across the country to take master classes with Broadway professionals, and to also have stage readings of a short 1-act play. That'll happen. We're not taking applications for that this year because it's been on hold for 2 years. So we're pulling from the applications we already have, but that'll happen in April, I believe, this year.
So you've got a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a decent amount coming up. A lot of ways to plug in.
Yeah. So how, I know this wasn't in one of the questions that I'd sent to you, but the last, year and a half has been, interesting, weird, difficult, challenging, throw in an adjective. Um, so looking forward or looking through 2022 or 2023, are there any changes ahead for Kcaic programming or funding, or are you thinking of new and interesting ways to connect with folks, or, to support new ways that people are producing art?
Yeah, so we have a number of things that are kind of in the development stage. Immediately we have the ARP relief grants that'll be coming out to arts organizations, and in the coming months. Hopefully, we started to see folks start to come out of into programming in the summer, and then it's a little bit retracted. So I'm hoping that in the spring, it kind of gets back to programming. In fact, we had switched. So during the CARES period, which would have been kind of in the 2020, we switched everything to relief, basically, all of our grant programs, in addition to the relief money that we got. And then this last year, we switched it back to programming, and we got one of our largest grant rounds. This last grant round was one of our largest grant rounds. So folks were kind of ready to get back to programming, and then now we got to kind of see where everyone's at. So we'll see what that brings once we kind of take stock, probably in the spring, and look at this next round that's coming up is sort of our second round of the year, or kind of our final round. The first round of next year will be in the spring, and we'll kind of take stock and see what this round brings, and if we need to make some changes to the grant programming there. But we do have a number of different labs and professional development opportunities, especially for individual artists that we're in the process of developing. And we'll be going through kind of a strategic planning process this year as well that might help inform that. That's something we were going to do right when the pandemic hit back in 2020, in the spring of 2020. And so we've kind of pushed that about as far as we can go, kind of delaying it. So we're looking at engaging in that process in the spring, and there might be some things that come out of that. I mean, there'll definitely be some things that come out of that process in terms of the grants and different methods of support.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're kind of a small but mighty organization. I mean, your staff isn't huge, but you serve an entire state. So that's pretty incredible. That you're able to accomplish and provide all of those services and supports and professional development opportunities. Do you want to speak to the field reps that Kcaic is working with over the last couple of years ish?
Yeah, I think the latter part of 2019 is when we started that program, if I remember right. So I had been kind of a one-person shop, I mean, all the way from 2012 for 2012 until 2019. And since growing staff takes a decent amount of time and money that we don't always have. What I looked at was trying to find, are there some connectors that live out in the region? So not necessarily trying to build a lot of folks that would just sort of live and reside in Topeka, but looking at trying to get folks, out who may know the organizations in the areas where they live. So we started that program in 2019, and we started it with about 4 regional reps. So we have folks that cover sort of the west and north central part of the state, southwest and south central part of the state, northeast and southeast part of the state, and then someone that covers what Commerce defines as east central, which is sort of the 4 big counties here on the eastern side: Wyandotte, Johnson, Douglas, and Shawnee. And their job is to really be in contact with the organizations that are in their area and the artists that are in their area, make sure that they know about the opportunities that we have, but also can talk through project proposals ahead of time, and over time, hopefully getting to know those organizations, maybe suggesting some projects that they may do, or some professional development things or organizational development things that they might need, or partnerships that maybe someone's doing something in one county and someone kind of wants to do the similar thing, and it would be better for those two to really partner on a project. So that's kind of been their role. And it's been great. I mean, immediately the amount of grants that we got shot up. We got a lot of new organizations that have come into the granting process. And then also, they all have they're all artists. They all have their areas, their different areas of expertise. So we will use them to help enhance projects or to do things like kind of going back to the strategic planning, convening stakeholders around certain topics. So we have someone who's doing that with folk and traditional arts as we begin to build our folk and traditional arts program. Someone that helps out with arts education. We just did a conference for arts educators and arts integrated education in Wichita. In early September, we had 100 educators, K through 12 from across the state attend that. So we have someone that assists with that. We have someone who assists with arts and ecology and artist in residence programs. She also runs the Tallgrass Artist Residency for us. Some folks who are skilled in creative placemaking. Some folks whose main objective is outreach into the diverse communities. And then someone who has a film background, so looking at film in particular. So there are great resources for not only their region, but also their field of expertise.
Awesome. And folks can find the contact info for their field rep on your website. Is that right?
Yes, there's a map there that lists all of the field reps, their areas, their geographic areas, if they serve a geographic area, and their area of expertise. Oh, we also have one that is kind of arts and health, accessibility, arts and medicine as well.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the next question I'm going to ask you is about the upcoming Arts Council Symposium. And it's super weird for me to ask you this because we are partnering together on it. And so I am intimately involved with it, but I'm going to pretend that I'm not.
Yeah.
So kind of the next big, maybe professional development piece that you guys are working on, that we're a part of, that the Arts Council is a part of too, is what we're hoping is our first annual Kansas Arts Council Symposium, and that's October 15th. So I'm going to pretend that I know nothing, and I'm going to ask you questions.
Sure.
Tell me about the symposium, Peter. What's going to happen?
Well, I mean, from our point of view, and we are, a partner on this, so there's probably, multiple motivations behind the event. But I think from our point of view, one of the things that we've been trying to do is really to build up the infrastructure, support infrastructure for the state, and build networks, certainly of organizations that have a certain similarity. So I think one of the goals is just to connect arts councils from across the state of all shapes and sizes, of all formats. So they have, at least one annual place where they can gather and share best practices, and get some professional development, but also just talk about, sort of the state of things. And so hopefully this will be the first, as you mentioned, the first and ongoing annual event that can take place. So I think for us, it's really sort of building that infrastructure. Right before the pandemic, we had something similar with community theaters from across the state, in partner with Salina Community Theater. They had a 3-day symposium, and it was great just to get like community theaters of all different sizes, some that were just starting up, some that were thinking of starting up, some that have been around for a long time, together to do workshops and discussions. And I would think this will be very similar.
Yeah, I know we're really excited about it. And the idea kind of bubbled up, maybe a little counterintuitively on our end, in kind of the depths of the pandemic. I think we, at least from the Arts Council's perspective, we went, okay, so, we're all kind of in this pandemic situation together, and we're all talking about, how do we stay relevant? How do we serve our community? Who is our audience? What is our role in all of this? Which I think are good, healthy questions, right? To kind of ask yourself as an organization, not only now, but going forward too. And so we thought, well, maybe it makes sense to have some kind of symposium locally. And then we thought, well, why does it have to be local, especially, if there is an opportunity to take advantage of technology, or, if it's safe to bring people together again, why not reach beyond the boundaries of Johnson County and, reach out to our colleagues across the state. And so we're really excited that you all said yes, and to have your support and partnership. Do you want to talk a little bit about kind of what we're thinking the focus will be of this year's first meeting? I think I kind of spilled the beans a little bit, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, re-examining, and I think probably all arts organizations are doing this, but re-examining sort of the role, in this case, of an arts council, within a community, and the various forms that takes. I mean, obviously an arts council that's in, a more metropolitan area where there's an abundance of other arts organizations, their role may be slightly different than in a smaller community where they are the only arts organization in the state. And so the burden of programming, falls sort of squarely on the Arts Council, whereas in some other cases it could be more of a coordinating body. But looking at sort of, what role they play in terms of service to the creative industry and to artists and arts organizations in their community, what role they play in terms of providing arts experiences or making sure arts experiences are happening for the citizens of that community. And then I think also looking at sort of what role they can play within the larger context of community, I don't want to say government, but governance in the sense of, what's their role in contributing to the greater good of the community, even beyond sort of the pre-prescribed roles of arts and culture. And so I think looking at those three things, it's a great time to sort of reevaluate that, as everyone is sort of reevaluating what their roles are and sort of, what systems, how systems look moving forward, sort of what pieces we want to keep from the old ways we were doing things and what ways we can do them better. And I think just as you described, I mean, one of the things, during the pandemic, the idea of geography kind of flew away a bit because everyone was existing in a sort of virtual space. And there was certainly some benefits to that in terms of, why can't somebody from a different city take the class I'm offering or be a part of the workshop? Whereas before it had to be sort of hyper local because everything was in person. Certainly there are a lot of things that you lose when you're not in person, but I think that idea of increasing access and having a more, statewide or national focus is something that I hope, kind of sticks around, because it makes you think on a broader scale of the kind of impact that your programming can have.
Yeah, I think we're really excited just to have conversations with different perspectives and folks, who approach things differently or are serving communities different than, Johnson County, because Kansas, it's suburban, it's urban, it's rural. I mean, there's a lot of different layers to the state and approaches to doing things. So I think we're really excited just to meet with our colleagues and explore different ideas. And I know we've got I don't want to steal your thunder, but I'll share who our keynote speaker is, Ruby
Sure.
Lopez Harper from Americans for the Arts, and she will, I think her remarks will focus on that. How do you stay relevant? How do you think beyond, what used to be normal? How do you serve your community? And then following that, we'll have a really exciting facilitated conversation, I think, which I'm hopeful that a lot of great ideas will come out of that.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm excited about the panel as well of different types of, as I mentioned, different types of arts councils and how they can be structured in different ways and serve maybe some different purposes, but also some similar purposes. I mean, that's the one nice thing about, being a part of a statewide organization and having sort of that statewide perspective is you can see in some ways how things are different, but in other ways how similar they are and how similar ideas are, whether it's rural or metropolitan, and then mixing those and seeing the innovation that comes from both sides of that is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you know what? I have motion sensor lights and my lights went out.
Oh, okay. Didn't know if there was like a dog or small child ready to walk across.
Yeah, so if folks are interested in learning more about the symposium, you can go to the Arts Council's website, artsjoco.org, and look under our programming tab. You'll find the Kansas Arts Council Symposium. I believe you can still register. I think registration is $40, and that includes continental breakfast, an amazing lineup of speakers and conversation, and a catered lunch. Anything else we need to share about the symposium?
No, just I think looking forward to seeing everybody in person, and or those that can make it, and looking forward to it growing every year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I have covered everything on my list that I was supposed to ask you. Are there anything else you want to share? Anything else you want to talk about?
Trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, like I said, we'll be doing a lot, hopefully a lot of convenings, particularly in the spring. So if folks want to kind of look out for that, and make sure that they plug into that strategic planning process when that's available. I think the other thing is I think that Community Theater Symposium is looking at taking place at the end of October this year. So there may be some information about that coming soon. Or at least a version of that. I think that probably covers it for the moment. Although if you ask me next week, I'm sure there'll be 6 other things I forgot to mention. But the website is always a great place, and you can sign up for our email blast, which send everything out. So if folks want to sign up for that, that's probably the best way to get information. And then check out that field rep map and get in touch with them. Even if you have nothing going on, it's good to introduce yourself, and that way it kind of puts them on their radar. So.
Yeah, and there's speaking of field reps, there is a new field rep for East Central. Did I say that right? Eastern side. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Lanita Cook, who is on the board of several arts organizations, I think, in the Johnson County area, but is also a member of the Kansas City Film Critics Circle. Is pretty well-known and well-respected film critic in the area, so has a lot of film knowledge and arts board admin knowledge, so we're excited to have her on the team.
Yeah, she's an awesome resource. So if you're in our area, reach out to her.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, I'll include a link to your website in the comments when I get this posted on Facebook.
Cool.
And yeah, anything else? Any final words?
Yeah, one last thing I forgot, because on the film side, I think it was just announced yesterday that Liberty Hall in Lawrence was selected as one of 7 satellite sites for the Sundance Film Festival this year. Oh, so there will be screenings of Sundance films at Liberty Hall at the end of January, simultaneously with the in-person festival that happens in Park City. But to be one of 7 in the country is a testament to the state, for sure, and the film culture that we have here, and also the fact that Leela Meadow-Connor, who's the president of Film Festival Alliance, which is the national organization for film festivals, happens to live in Wichita, which is great, and helped start the Tallgrass Film Festival there. So we're pretty excited about that happening.
Nice.
And the Poet Laurier program. That was the other thing that just came to us. The Poet Laurier program. So we now run the Poet Laurier program, and so for arts organizations or any kind of organization that would like the Poet Laureate to make an appearance, you can schedule that on our website. The current Poet Laureate is Huáscar Medina, and so yeah, we're excited to work with him and sort of figure out all the new things that we can do with the Poet Laureate program now that it's in the arts wheelhouse.
Yeah, and shameless plug, I mean, another reason to sign up for the symposium is Huáscar is our closing, he's going to give the closing remarks at the symposium on October 15th. Cool. So
perfect.
Come on out and listen to him.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Well, all right, awesome. I think we've covered everything that we could possibly cover in 30-ish minutes.
Yeah.
So we'll follow up with links and such in the comments. And, you know, Peter, as things come to you, we'll push them out to our audience too. So if we missed anything, don't worry. And thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. All right.